see the German flag and the Israeli flag side by side still is very touching for me. To have Dr. Klein here and to present his very thoughtful speech was a deep wish of us at the embassy, and I thank you so much for making this possible. You mentioned how it was in Germany after the end of the World War. I was born 15 years after the end of World War II, and I can assure you that the silence was prevailing. The German Jews were almost exterminated, but the silence prevailed. There was nothing reflected on Jewish culture when I grew up, and I didn't grow up in an extremely cruel or dumb or ignorant family or neighborhood. The Jews were just not spoken about. They did not exist, and this killed the victims a second time. So to have in Germany a commissioner for Jewish life in Germany and for the fight anti-Semitism, there's a reason behind it. So to create this commissioner posting was maybe too late, but it was necessary. And how necessary it is to fight against anti-Semitism, this we see in the streets of Germany each and every day, especially after the cruel attack of Hamas on October 7, 1.5 years ago. So, yeah, I'm full of gratitude. I am humbled. I feel very privileged to be here amongst you. And my deep thanks go to Aegis Trust, to the government of Rwanda, and of course to you, my dear Inat.
The Holocaust remains one of the most devastating events in human history, a calculated and systematic attempt to crush an entire Jewish population by the Nazi regime. This horrific atrocity was fueled by prejudice, relentless propaganda, and the devastating silence of bystanders. 6 million Jewish lives were brutally taken, along with millions of others deemed undesirable by the Nazis, like the Roma, the disabled, and homosexuals. It is safe to say that the Nazis drew their might from provoking hate, celebrating and dancing on the blood of innocent people, thrived on hatred, anti-Semitism, and dehumanization of the Jewish people. The Holocaust was the attempt by the Nazis and their collaborators to destroy all Jewish people in Europe and beyond, with the ultimate goal of destroying all Jewish civilization. No regime can succeed without propaganda and without normalizing the most unfathomable ideas. The evils of hatred, intolerance, and dehumanization still persist in our world today, as the other speakers said before. One of the most insidious forces that allowed the Holocaust to happen was the spreading of hate speech. The Nazi regime's use of propaganda to dehumanize Jews paved the way to unspeakable atrocities. Through lies, distortions, and baseless accusations, they nurtured a culture of hate that ultimately turned neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend, and society against itself. Without dehumanization, as our friend here said, and polarization, without making humans redundant, the Nazis wouldn't be able to mobilize one of the most orchestrated operations in modern history that ultimately led to the extermination of 6 million Jewish people. The techniques used during the Holocaust were shockingly cruel and meticulously executed. Men, women, and children were stripped physically and mentally from their basic human dignity. They were tortured, starved, and as we saw in this hard documentary, and subjected to horrific experiments. The scale and calculated nature of these atrocities remind us the depth of human cruelty when hatred and anti-Semitism go unchecked. Regrettably, the specter of anti-Semitism has not been eradicated. A study published 5 days ago, actually, shows a 340% increase in total anti-Semitic incidents worldwide in 2024 compared to 2022, only 2 years apart. The study also notes the term Zionism has become a cover for anti-Jewish expression online. The rise of anti-Semitism, racism, xenophobia, and hate speech in all its forms is a reminder that the work of remembrance is never done. We see in the venomous rhetoric that seeks to scapegoat entire communities and in the violence that erupts worldwide from this hate. October 7, 2023 marked a horrific moment in history with the attack on Israel. It was a violent manifestation of ideologies rooted in hatred and blatant disregard for human lives. On that day, innocent civilians, Jewish, Muslims, Christians, and others became victims of senseless and brutal assault by Hamas terror organization. It is a stark reminder that hatred knows no boundaries, no creeds, and we must stand united against the forces that seek to destroy peace, dignity, and freedom. These are not just words, it's a reality. Ironically, some of the Holocaust survivors who had built their homes in Israel, who created life through the darkest of the memories were the victims of the October 7th events. History never forgets to come back in its most twisted manifestation if we keep the door open and our hearts idle. In the last week, there was a glimmer of hope in the release of hostages, a bittersweet moment that filled many hearts with relief, the joy of seeing loved ones, civilians, women returning, hearing the voices of those freed from unimaginable captivity is undeniable. But even in this joy, there is the deep sadness of knowing that the trauma they endured will stay with them forever. We cannot erase the suffering, the pain, or the scars left in their bodies and their minds. The trauma of captivity, like the trauma of the Holocaust, does not vanish with the return of loved ones. Even as I stand here, it's hard to believe that Israel had gone through what we have gone through since October 7th. It's also hard to believe that Jewish communities today worldwide are feeling unsafe in spaces they once considered secure. This pattern, reminiscent of the years leading to the Holocaust, is a wake-up call to the international community, academic institutions, and policymakers to address this growing threat decisively. This is how we begin, and it's our collective responsibility to ensure history does not repeat itself again. We used to say never again. We heard this phrase today many times, never again, but as we're standing here, never again has happened. It happened a year and a half ago in Israel. It happened here in Rwanda in 1994 when the genocide against the Tutsi claimed more than 1 million lives of innocent Tutsis. At this very memorial site lay to rest more than 250,000 of Tutsis were brutally executed. Why do we gather each year here to remember? Because remembering is our most powerful defense against indifference. By confronting the horrors of the Holocaust, we do not only honor the memory of the victims, but also empower future generations to recognize the warning signs of hatred and actively resist them. Memory is a very powerful tool of accountability, a way to ensure that never again is not merely a phrase, but guiding principle. Remembering is not enough. We must act, counter hate speech and anti-Semitism from which violence grows. It must be challenged whatever and wherever it emerges.
Où nous commémorons la Shoah, le génocide commis contre les Juifs il y a maintenant 80 ans. Ce devoir de mémoire universel incombe à tous, il incombe aux États, il incombe aux organisations internationales, aux ONG, aux individus, aux personnes adultes et aux jeunes. 80 ans, les survivants, beaucoup de survivants, sont décédés. Ils sont partis. Mais nous sommes ici, nous sommes là pour eux. Raison pour laquelle ce devoir de mémoire est extrêmement important. Également raison pour laquelle faire ce devoir de mémoire en un lieu comme celui-ci, symbolique, permet de rappeler l'événement dramatique de cette extermination. La Shoah a permis l'avancée du droit international. Les 6 millions de Juifs qui ont été exterminés ont laissé cet héritage. Ils ont été exterminés et le droit a pu fonctionner quand même. Le tribunal de Nuremberg a jugé les principaux auteurs de ce génocide. Même actuellement, je vois souvent, parfois à la télé, des jugements, des procès, des nazis. Ils savent qu'ils ne vont pas vieillir sans répondre de leurs actes. Et ils répondent de leurs actes parce que l'extermination, la Shoah, le génocide, n'a pas eu le dernier mot. Ils mourront condamnés. Et ça servira une leçon aux jeunes. La Shoah a permis en même temps, au niveau du droit, à la communauté internationale de réfléchir sur les modalités de prévention et de répression de ces crimes graves et horribles. La Convention du 9 décembre 1948 est née de cette expérience de la Shoah. Parce que le monde s'est rendu compte que les victimes ne pouvaient pas partir et laisser les bourreaux impunis. Cet instrument juridique international pose des obligations importantes. L'obligation de prévenir. Et c'est ce que les victimes attendent de nous. Les victimes sont parties, les survivants sont là, mais ils veulent que le crime qu'ils ont subi ne se reproduise plus jamais nulle part ailleurs. Il faut donc unir tous nos efforts au jour, comme nous le pouvons. Les États, les organisations internationales, les organisations non gouvernementales, les individus, unissons nos efforts pour prévenir les génocides partout où il y a ce risque. Il y a aussi cette obligation de répression, parce que malheureusement, il arrive encore que les crimes majeurs se commettent. Et une fois que ces crimes sont commis, il y a un devoir de répression. Et ce devoir de répression incombe aussi à tous, d'autant plus que les instruments ne manquent pas. Le Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies a souvent voté des résolutions dans ce sens. Et si je me réfère fréquemment au génocide perpétré contre les Tutsis, le Conseil de sécurité, vous le savez, a mis en place un tribunal pénal international pour le Rwanda, qui qui a fait son travail, qui a jugé une soixantaine de criminels. Et il n'y a pas longtemps, en 2014, le Conseil de sécurité a voté la résolution 2150, demandant aux États de réprimer les auteurs du génocide perpétrés contre les Tutsis qui sont exilés dans un certain nombre d'États. Le Rwanda remercie les États qui ont déjà accompli cet acte et qui le font encore. Mais on voit toujours qu'il y a des criminels qui sont en fuite, qui ne sont pas poursuivis. Et au fur et à mesure que le temps passe, son temps bénéficie aux criminels, aux grands génocidaires. Nous avons vu récemment le mécanisme résiduel pour les tribunaux internationaux qui devait juger le principal financier du génocide des Tutsis, Félicien Kabuga, n'a pas pu le juger parce que ce monsieur s'était caché pendant plus de 25 ans. Et quand il a été attrapé, les psychiatres, les spécialistes ont estimé qu'il était âgé, que ses capacités mentales n'étaient pas à mesure de permettre son jugement. Et donc, il va mourir innocent. Et ça, c'est une blessure pour le survivant. C'est pourquoi j'insiste pour cette solidarité, afin que les criminels partout où ils soient, qu'ils ne restent pas impunis, et il faut agir vite. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, vous l'avez bien souligné. Malgré le temps passé, malgré 80 ans du génocide des Juifs, l'antisémitisme est toujours là. Malheureusement, au fur et à mesure que la mémoire pour l'honneur des victimes se remémore, se transmet, en même temps, les idéologues du génocide transmettent l'horreur, transmettent la haine des Juifs, la haine des Tutsis. Ils la transmettent aux enfants, aux jeunes générations. Et ça fait des dégâts, ça fait des ravages.